Okay, today we're working on a 2013 Landrover LR4. It's the V8 non-supercharged. This originally came to me with a coolant leak that originated on the pipe here in behind the water pump. The water pump also had a leak, as well as the thermostat was changed as well. Vehicle ran fine for a very short period of time and then started to build pressure in the cooling system. There was evidence on the cooling pipe that showed, heat from combustion gases. It had melted from the inside out, something I hadn't seen before. And in this one, we're going to do the timing chain as well because it's a Land Rover. It's going to need a timing chain and new head gaskets. It produces a lot of white smoke, ethylene glycol burning. And I'll try to take you along step by step. I've already taken the main plenum off the front for the air intake. I've taken out both air cleaners, intake, the fan shroud. See how much room there is. I watched the video from Atlantic British, pretty in depth, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to do this one myself. I've acquired this vehicle now. Customer did not want to fix it, so it's going to be my little project. And I might take the front clip off just to gain a lot of access for the timing chain. I appreciate it's not part of this procedure. I like to do it for myself just because it's easier to get to everything. And yeah, so I know a lot of you'll say, yeah, you can do that without it, and you certainly can. Okay, so I took the air boxes out just to gain a little bit of access to the valve covers. On the top of the fan shroud comes off. It's clipped in on each side. Unplugged it, the fan, viscous coupler, electrical connector. Now in the Atlantic British video, I noticed they did not show taking off the fan clutch. And there's a reason for that. It's a bitch. So, you see them spinning it off. Well, I spent a good hour on this using an air chisel. I even have the proper tools for fan clutches, and this thing did not want to come off. And I need to mention for the record, I used a 36 mil. That's an old modified wrench I cut off years ago. Came in handy today. And you see the marks from my, not my impact gun, but my air chisel. And this is the one that got it off, where my other tool, the actual fan clutch tool, didn't successfully remove it. The next one is get that belt off and off the harmonic balancer. It looks like it's a stretch belt. I don't see a tensioner on it, so we'll do that next. Now there is a tool kit to get the harmonic balancer off. I was gonna try and cheat it. I got this online. Looks like quite the medieval tool. This is on the Atlantic British website, but it's, I think, all in, even the cam lock tools, everything, you're looking at over $1,000 Canadian. I think it was 1,200 American. Don't quote me, I'd have to go back and look for these tools. And I have an injector puller slide hammer to get the injectors out for the direct injected injectors. But we'll go along. If I could have cheated this, I would have. And I've read that there have been some people who successfully used third-party pullers and got that off. But I'll find out. Okay, I've got the serpentine belt off. The tensioner, you can see it here. Sorry, I can't see my camera. 3/8 drive, loosen it off, take the belt off the water pump. Now this idler here, where the belt from the crankshaft came up to the pulley here, stretch belt, it knocked off pretty easy. It's probably going to be a bitch to get on, but nevertheless it came off without a fight. Now this one, the belt goes in behind. There's a pulley underneath here, and the belt goes over it. So I'm going to pull the last bolt out here quick. So you can see that, drop some bolts here, how that belt goes over that pulley. So when you install this, you're gonna have to put the serpentine belt on there first before you bolt it up, or you'll never get it on. The interference, how it overlaps to the timing cover, is so tight you can't get the belt in. Okay, I also removed the throttle body, just 4 bolts, hose on the bottom, a couple of connectors. It's straightforward. Take it off. I'm going to pull the intake manifold off next, just to get it out of the way. You know, there's just, I don't know, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 10 bolts total each side. A little bit of shit on the back to get off. Doesn't look like it's much of an issue to get it off. And then from there, I'll probably go after the valve covers, water pump. I love doing things twice. Excuse me. The cam lock tool kit, and I got to pull the starter out and lock the flywheel to the starter through the starter hole. So there's a couple there, so you can see a couple of locks here, cam locks. Pretty comprehensive kit. Now, incidentally, that slide hammer for pulling injectors did not come in this kit. I bought it separately. Didn't indicate that it was in there, although I see if you had a slide hammer and a hook, it did come with the attachment to go over the top of the injector. You want to look closely before you go ahead. As we go along, I'm very curious about that crankshaft puller setup, getting that off. It's a large torque to yield bolt, so a single-use bolt on the crankshaft. And same with the washers. I'm not sure if they're a crush washer or not, but I noticed in the procedurally that they replaced them. So, okay, a little bit of an update. I've pulled the fuel rail off. That was a little bit of a fight, but it came. The last one, it stuck on that injector seal. It was a bit of a job. Working it nice and easy. A little heel bar actually helped. You know, that was before I took out the coils. The first 2 are easy, the last 2 are a bitch. This is the tool that I used in order to get it. Worked well. Now let's talk about these injectors. On the Atlantic British video, you know, it's implied, you know, they're kind of tough. Well, I've been on this for an hour, and I've soaked it down with Deep Creep WD-40, a couple of concoction of penetrating fluids, and I still have yet to get the first one out. This little slide hammer is completely inadequate for that job. There's not enough weight here. I'm probably gonna try this tool here. This one that came with the kit, and try a slide hammer that's got, you know, a couple pounds of weight on it to pull that thing out of there. However, replace the injectors just because I'm concerned they'd be damaged, and I don't want to do this again. So yeah. Okay, so I used the other tool. Fortunately, I can get some room there. I'm gonna have to take this box out of the way here. I used, you know, a real slide hammer, not that little guy there. It might work on the other ones. I'm not entirely sure, but it took this guy 2 hits and it came off. Yeah, so that first injector, I'm unclear what these pieces are. They were sitting right here as I pulled this one up. And this injector actually, the body of it fractured. I don't know if you can see it here. Yeah. I suspect the rest of them are going to be just as difficult. I'm going to budget for 8 new injectors just because, well, there you go. You can see that crack there. Right tip of my thumb. Okay, 2.5 hours later, a little bit of an update. You'll see my demeanor is changing. I'm a little pissy. I got 2 injectors out. I did not break the second one. That little fibrous disc that I didn't know where it came from, actually, you can see it right here. it's on the top of the injector. I got the lock for the slide hammer behind it instead of on top of it and broke it. So that is why one injector is no good, but it also broke the body, which I showed previously. So to get to those last two, I don't know if you saw this. This piece has to come out of the way. It's a module. I'm just getting this one loose now, and it's got to be Jenga'd out of there. And you know, to get to those last two, in order to get the slide hammer on there, I'm anticipating this side battery is going to come out, the tray assembly, everything, in order to get those last two injectors out on this side. Judging by the two coils here, I shouldn't have a problem getting to the first two, but the back ones, let me just back up here, all of that's going to come out of the way. So done in order to get to this point had to be significant. And again, I had to use the much bigger slide hammer instead of this little wimpy piece of shit that they supply you with in the toolkit. It is totally not adequate. And I've soaked these down for hours. That also was implied in that video. Or maybe that guy's just got 10 times the strength I have. Plastic piece out of the way here. You got to loosen the AC line, move it a bit, and you can get it out. It's not that big of a deal. Now I extracted the last couple of injectors. The third one came out with not as near as much effort as the other ones previous to that. So I'm going to attribute that to soaking it with penetrating fluid for, you know, the better part of 18 hours. So yeah, and the last one, I simply could not get that slide hammer on without getting these lines out of the way. And I don't want to break them open if I don't have to. So the little eyelet style lock that locks onto the injector that came with the kit, that kit, you're able to get that in there. And then I was able to get the large slide hammer under the hood, and it simply took one whack and it came out nice and straight. But the penetrating fluid, I'm sure, was the factor. So I'm going to take this side on later today, but I think I'm just going to pull the plugs and coils out, get the fuel rail off, and just simply soak them with penetrating fluid and wait yet another day to get them out. I wasted half a day or more on these ones, and they're so, you know, carboned in there that you risk doing damage to them getting them out because they're in so tight. So just another quick addition. I need to correct something. I mentioned that I had broken that disc, that fibrous disc, because I got behind it and I needed to be on top, and that actually isn't accurate. Just slide it up a little bit, get it out of the way. This collar right here fits behind that little piece there, right at the tip of my finger. There's a gap. It locks under there. If you try to pull it from the top, you might get it to work, but I find it tends to slip off this end. Okay, the next update, I have the valve cover off on the passenger side. Everything actually looks pretty good in there. I'm pleased. The valve cover, the bolts down on the bottom there were the most difficult, but compared to what I went through with this, they're quite easy. Moving to the other side, I anticipated a similar experience, and that wasn't the case. So once you remove the battery, the tray, get it out of the way, access on the passenger side is so much better. It's actually not even difficult to work on. All the injectors, for whatever reason, using this and my heavier slide hammer, one or two whacks, all four of them came out. No penetrating fluid. Very pleased. So I'm only going to probably replace two injectors on that side, the two most rearward ones. Or actually the front one and the most rearward one. So this side, once you this back header now, got the cam locks in on each side just to verify timing, since I'm doing head gaskets here as well. I got to pull those cams out. The flywheel lock, pretty straightforward once you have it timed in the safe position. But there's another lock that goes in where the crank position sensor goes. This is the second one that comes in the kit. There's another one, and I'll show it to you. I screwed around for hours thinking, you know, I wasn't putting it in properly, or I didn't quite have it timed right, and that thing's a piece of shit. I ended up, I had it timed, cams locked, and I went underneath and I, you know, started to manipulate it a bit. I couldn't get it to go in, but I turned it 90 degrees and it fell into place. So I've got a piece of wood down there holding it in place because the hole for the crank position sensor and the locking tool don't line up. There was another gentleman did a video that actually put me on to that, where he had bought one of these inexpensive kits and he had a similar experience, although he was able to grind it to fit. The orientation of it seemed to be correct, but the size of the little block that goes into the reluctor wheel was a difference. I've got the crank tool in place. There was a 12 on the bolts, so it indicates that it's right hand, or excuse me, left hand. And I broke it loose, and it took a large breaker bar and a snipe to do that. So it's loose, and hopefully I can get this thing all apart today. Okay, quick update. I've got cams off both sides, chains are out. I think the biggest thing is I didn't have the tool. I did have a 60 poly drive that I simply ground down the sides so it would fit in the holes, you know, for the head bolts. Surprisingly, they weren't as tight as I expected. I thought it would be a really hard pull, but that might have been part of the problem why they failed in the first place. None of them broke. Everything came out. My helper, and yeah, so I got some ancillary shit here. I got a pulley here, fuel lines, pump on this side to take off, and then of course the exhaust manifold in the rear underneath. And then I should hopefully have a smoking gun for what happened here. I had the heads off, and I looked closely at the head gaskets. It's really inconclusive where it blew. That said, then I sent them to the machine shop, hence the week later. There was a couple spots that were almost 10 thou warped. So it took 10 thou off these heads to make them true again. So, you know, there's my red herring right there. Getting the exhaust manifolds off the other side, I highly recommend you soak those down days in advance. One of my bolts broke on extraction, and of course, you know, had to drill it out, and it was not easy. It took me a couple hours to get that thing, and trying to get it drilled straight. Worked down to the 120 degree part, you know, your torque angle gauge. It's an uncomfortable stretch at the very end, so you know, you feel like you're on pins and needles when you're getting that 120, but it goes. So yeah, I still got this side. I got the first and second torque down 20 Newton meter and then 30. Now I'm going to do the 90, let it sit for a bit, and then I'll do the 120, and that should be the end of my torquing, and start reassembling this timing chain. All right.